In this video, I'm going to be talking about using the spot healing tool within Photoshop and how to use that tool non-destructively. Right now, we have our composition, and down here we have a background group. This is a smart object group, which I can access simply by double-clicking the thumbnail. So I'm going to double-click it, and it opens up our group1.psb. Within this file, I have a group with multiple layers within that. I've gone ahead and just locked all of these. We're not going to be making any modifications to these layers directly. So the spot healing tool can be found beneath the eyedropper tool. You can simply hit J on your keyboard to access it, and it does exactly what it's showing you here. It removes marks and blemishes. This is a really effective tool for removing unwanted elements from an image. For instance, in this case, I'm going to remove some of these rocks that I don't really like too much. So the spot healing tool has a few options. Up here we have the brush size and the brush type, the mode, and then the type of healing it does. We're going to leave it on content aware. And then further down here we have the sample all layers button. We want to make sure that this is checked. This is really essential, or else this tool will not work properly. Now, many of you, if you've used Photoshop before, might assume that I can just simply go to the layer and start using the tool. And you'd be correct in this, right? It works just by going to that layer and selecting it, and I was able to just remove that rock. But by doing this, this is actually a destructive action, right? If I save this file and do other things to it and close it and open it up again, I'm not going to be able to undo that. So I want to do this on its own layer where I can access that layer at any time, remove it, add to it, modify it, etc. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to go ahead and lock this group up again. I'm going to create a new layer, either by clicking this new layer button in the bottom right hand corner, or going up and going to Layer, New Layer. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it Spot Healing Brush Layer and say OK. I'm going to move it outside of this group just so that it's not locked with the rest of them. So within this, I just select my spot healing tool, make sure it's on content aware, and sample all layers is checked. I'm going to show you what happens if that's not checked. If it's not checked and I try and use the tool, well, nothing actually happens. So I need to check sample all layers. It's going to sample all layers within this composition and then apply it on whatever layer you're on. So I'm on this blank layer. To use the tool, it's quite simple. I'm just going to zoom into my point of interest. I'm going to try and remove this thing right here, this rock right here. I simply make the brush just slightly larger than the object itself that I'm removing. I've done that just by hitting the right bracket key that's next to the P key on the keyboard. I can also do that by going up here and changing the size of the brush. And I simply click once, and it's gone. Let's say I want to remove this rock. I make it a little bit smaller, click once, gone, and so on and so forth. Now, I like to use the spot healing tool just as clicking and then I'm done. Some people use it to make brush strokes like this. I find that this leaves a lot of errors, so I'd rather go in individually and remove exactly what I want to just by clicking once. This is widely used to remove zits and freckles and things like that on airbrushing models, etc. But it can also be used, as you see here, to remove whole parts of your composition. Now sometimes, see for instance this one, there's kind of an obvious circle there, so we may want to correct that just by kind of clicking around it just to kind of smooth that out. Whenever I zoom out, I want to always check what my larger composition looks like. Yeah, it's not noticeable at all. Let's go over here. Whoops. See, so that's an example of it messing up, right? I clicked right there, and it did this weird kind of circle thing. So I'm going to go ahead and undo that. Go over here, click, click, click. What Photoshop is doing is, and why we size it to the size of the object, is it's looking at what is around your brush, and whenever you click, it's looking at that data and saying, okay, take that data and apply it to this area and see what's different. So it's noticing, okay, there's a difference in the rock here, so whenever I release, it removes the rock and it fills it in with that color. So for instance, if I went here to this stone, whenever I click, it's going to look at all of the surrounding data and fill it in with that. So I get some weird kind of little chunks of this rock over here, some of this rock, some of the sand here. But Photoshop has gotten, in the last 5 years, really good at doing this. as you can see. Now, I did this on its own layer, so at any time I can just turn that layer off, right? And all of my spot healing tools will disappear.